What is going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 42 of Ghost in the Night. Today I want to just play the remaining portions of my conversation with Reverend Connell. We continue the protection of against demonic activity, and also we kind of move into his role as an exorcist. So let's go ahead and get this podcast started. Ghost in the Night with Phil Sams. Yeah, because I've always come from it from the aspect of, or the thought of, it's mental, it's a demon or even an evil spirit, because, there is a distinction between the two in my view. They pick on, or they go after the low-hanging fruit. And what I mean by that is, if you are, this sounds bad, weak-minded, or you're having a bad day, or you're stressed out, or you're something in your life is causing you not to be 100% focused on your mental strength, they're going to go after that person first before they're going to take on somebody who is strong in their convictions, who is mentally strong, spiritually strong, and naturally, I don't want to say physically strong, but just represents themselves as a strong person. They're strong-minded. They're up for the fight, essentially. They want the path. They want to go down the path of least resistance. So anybody that I've always been more mental, try to focus my mind on what I need to do, the task at hand, the protection of myself. And I'm a firm believer in the faith portion of it. If you strongly believe in your convictions and your relationship with God or your faith, that it doesn't matter what metals or that crucifix is going to, or those rosaries are going to have more effect than somebody who's just having a bad day and they're just not into it mentally. They're stressed out. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think I know where you're going with that. Yeah.
I mean,
I understand what you're saying.
I always try to go when I'm at my best, essentially. If I'm not focused in on if I'm not feeling spiritually or mentally strong, I'm better off not to do it, because then I'm more of a target than I would be otherwise.
Yeah, you better believe it.
Right. Okay.
And keep this in mind too, that demons aren't bound by time. They're spiritual. They're not bound by time.
Right.
So a long game is nothing for them.
Right.
Their long game could be 1,000 years.
Yeah, they're not. They don't have They don't have our weakness of life to where we have a life expectancy.
Right. They exist in the past, present, and future all simultaneously. They're just there.
Right.
It's hard for our minds to grasp, but I love those kinds of arguments.
Right. Because we is, time, and I've spoke about this. I forget who I was speaking. I think I even talked about on the podcast. But time is a human aspect. Yeah. Yeah. We measure everything by how many times we go around the sun. And how many times the earth revolves. That's how we measure everything. A spirit or something, the other realm, and I believe it's a different realm essentially. They don't recognize that version of time. We invented time. Time does not exist essentially. We invented time. It just as a way of measuring our life.
We have a beginning, we have an end.
Right.
In the physical realm,
In the spiritual realm, there's no beginning, there's no end. It's there. Right. It's just there. And that's because that's always the kind of debate, not to get too religious or too, the whole created, and I've been in topics or conversations with people on this before, the earth was created in 7 days. You're thinking a week. God's version of 7 days might be a whole lot different than our version of 7 days. Right. You can't think literally when you're thinking of the spiritual world. It's more figurative in how, there's a lot more flexibility.
Right.
It's not literal the way we think.
Right. Yeah, I'm not too much of a literalist either,
right.
unless it comes to obeying or disobeying.
Right. Right.
That's about the only literal I could find.
Right. Now, when we're talking about demonic activity, what are do demons have certain powers or certain attributes that set them apart other than just being of a non-living spiritual being? I mean, do they have certain powers as in, power of telekinesis or something?
Well,
what power do they have over us?
Wisdom. They have power of knowing everything. They know us better than we know ourselves. Right. They know human beings. They know what makes us tick.
Right.
Everything. I think they do make things move. Can make things move, but that's because we can't see them.
Right.
They might actually be touching that stuff. I do not believe and will not believe that they can read our minds or know the future. They can't.
Right.
But they are extremely intuitive. They can tell what you're going to do based on your past actions. So, because they can even probably been manipulating you your whole life somehow.
So basically, they're really good at cold reading. They're like some of these charlatan psychic mediums. They're really good at cold reading.
Yeah. They're experts.
Yeah. Let me pose this question to you. God created the heavens and the earth. He, for lack of a better term, he allowed Satan to do what he did, to rebel, and he cast him out. Because I've always come from the way of thinking that the universe is about balance. There has to be good. There can't be good without evil. It isn't, a lot of, you'll always hear, I've heard my grandmother say this and my mother say this, it's God's plan. God knew what was going on. He knew what was going to happen because he knew there had to be balance. He knew there had to be a good, there had to be a bad, there had to be good, there had to be evil. So when you look at demons, everybody, I come from the thinking that we have to, they're actually unfortunately a necessity in the universe just for balance in the universe. I'm not, people around probably listening saying, oh my God, he's saying demons are good. No, I'm saying they're a needed part of, they create balance in the aspect, because if I'm a firm believer in free will, God gave us the choice of free will. He gave us the choice. He put us on the road and he put a fork in the road. So I don't look at demons this is going to sound freaking horrible, but I don't know how else to say this. Yes, they're evil, but they're necessary evil. Does that kind of make sense?
I see what you're saying.
Right.
And it sounds like more of an Eastern mysticism way of thought, the yin yang. My theology says that God only created good. It was good in the beginning. It was even in Genesis. He said he created it, and it was good. Everything was good. But he gave us free will. He gave his angels free will. Everything he created, free will. Choose whatever they wanted. That's his ultimate gift. There you go.
Right.
You can choose to obey, you can choose to disobey, whatever.
Right.
One of the angels got too haughty, so he disobeyed. Maybe God did know there was going to be evil. I'm sure he did. Of course, he's all knowing.
Right.
Whether it's needed, I don't know. I'm not sold on that it's needed. I'm sold on that it is a tool that can be used to drive somebody back to God.
Right.
God can allow. God, he does not punish us. He is not a punisher. As he corrects us, he will allow bad things to happen just to drive us back to him.
It's kind of, I like to use the analogy. I think of it, and here's my pea brain thinking of it, as parenting, occasionally as a parent, you have to let your kid stick that fork in the socket.
Yeah.
For them to learn not to do it. You can tell them not to do it all day long, but by telling them not to do it, they're going to want to do it that much more. You know, and I, you know, that is just the way I view how he handles us, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he lets us forge our own path, make our own mistakes. And, you know, he understands and he realizes that, you know, he's going to lose some along the way. But
sure.
The ones that he does make the correct choice or make the right choice are that much better and that much stronger for it.
Sure.
You know, I know I'm going to get texts or emails that about I'm a Satanist now, but that's okay.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, it happens. I mean, you know, because, you know, and the reason I said that, because, you know, when you say the word demon or demonology or Satan or anything, it strikes fear. And I was even taught this, to strike fear. Sure. I don't necessarily fear it because I think I understand it, and I don't immediately, my first reaction isn't gut wrenching. It's like, okay, it's just part of the world. Not that I don't fear it, it's just I don't. This is so, you know, it's part of the world.
Life.
I don't,
whether we like it or not.
I don't get all weepy or scared when I hear those terms. You know, and I remember as a child, you know, you hear the word Satanist or you hear stories about satanic cults. You're like, because there's I've been wanting to do a podcast on it, but there's a bridge up here in Ohio called Screaming Bridge.
I've heard of that.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's literally 5 miles up the road from me. And the story was, you know, when I was in high school and I graduated, and I'm old, 91. To my listeners, they're saying, "Oh my God, he's ancient." But that bridge went over a railroad track, and you could hear. The story was somebody fell off it to their death. Their car stopped, or their car stalled, and a lady fell to her death, and hence the word "Screaming Bridge." You could hear somebody scream, and the story was, if you stopped your car on that road and turned it off, it wouldn't turn back on. Now, naturally, being 17, 18-year-old kid, we went and tried it, and it turned the car off, and boom, it didn't want to start. We pushed it off the road, or pushed it off the bridge, and it started. Now, this could have been because my car was a piece of crap, but there's that possibility. But the story was there was always Satan. There was a house that, you know, took part in satanic rituals, you know, and it was a real not deserted, but there was only a few houses on that street. And, you know, that was kind of the legend or the myth that there was a satanic group right there causing that. I'm like, and yeah, when I was younger, that did, you know, strike fear because that's what I was taught. But as I started doing a little bit more research in my life and got older with wisdom, or got wisdom by getting older, better way to say it, you know, I don't fear that. That wouldn't strike fear in my heart. I don't care if I meet somebody on the street and you're a Satanist, whatever, that's your choice. It doesn't affect me at all.
Right.
I don't fear you or think you're, I don't want to say less than a person, but I just, whatever. You do what you want. You do you, and it doesn't affect me at all.
Fear is a powerful weapon.
Right.
It really is. And, you know, you were talking about satanic houses and homes and, you know, things can attach themselves to dwellings. Unfortunately, especially if there's been rituals, blood rituals, any sort of true satanic ritual or witchcraft, things can attach themselves there or just stay there. I can't say that for 100% sure, but I don't know.
You know, in actuality, we can't say any of this is in 100% proof, because if we had 100% proof of any of this, I probably wouldn't be here talking to you right now. You know, these are all theories.
Based off experience and past wisdom and knowledge. And, so
these are all just hypotheses that we're all coming up with. And, you know, they're based on learning and experiences, you know, and we might not be dead nuts on the correct path, but we're probably pretty close. There are definitely things in this world we don't understand in all aspects of life.
That is the truth.
Yeah.
And we should all be lifelong learners. We should always seek to understand, always learn.
Right. That's, you know, I'm a firm believer, the more you learn, the better off you are, and it keeps you young. You know, if you keep your mind young, I think, you see and hear these people live into 90s or 80s probably because they're always trying to learn something.
Sure.
When you stagnate yourself, that is when, things start to really go downhill.
Sure.
Now, we talked about you being an exorcist. Now, how does one go about becoming an exorcist?
One should never aspire to be one. Ever.
That was what I was thinking, but I didn't want to offend you.
I don't think I aspired to be one. I really don't. I think it just happened. Because of the nature of everything that I've dealt with my whole life. Maybe it was predestined. I don't know. It's just what happened to me. My experience. I know the authority that I have in Christ over the demonic, and I have a better understanding of, and I can see a bigger picture and know what's going on. Some people call it psychic. I don't call it that, but it's I don't know. It's just a sixth sense, a knowing. I just know, and it is interesting. It's a fascinating subject, sure. You got to get past all of that too.
Right.
It's spooky, but it comes with if you're going to be one, you should be well versed in your theology, know what you're talking about, and dedicated. You can't be wishy-washy, double-minded, in it one day, out the next, not truly believing in it. It's not a profession.
Right.
It's a calling. And it's not glamorous by any stretch of the imagination, no matter what Hollywood will spin.
Right.
It is awful because you're a constant target.
Right.
You're a threat to the enemy.
Mm-hmm. You
pose a threat, and they'll kill your family, they'll kill your friends, they'll make your life a living hell.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not careful. And it has a lot of it is you have to be prudent, careful. Like I said before, best defense is a good offense. So you live the life. You live what you say. You live what you preach.
Right.
You do the best you can.
Now,
as a human being.
How long have you been, or how long have you been essentially an exorcist, or what was the time frame, when you got into the church and decided to devote your life professionally, I should say, not spiritually, but as make this your calling? How long between getting into from the start to becoming a exorcist and going down that path?
Well, of course, I became a believer first when I was really young, and I think I finally fell into this truly devoted to it about 10 years ago. Now, every believer is an exorcist. That's what we're called to do. We're called to cast out demons, so to speak. Exorcist is never actually used in scriptures, just to let you know.
Right.
Something that we put on it. Cast out demons is what they say. And it should only be about 10% of your job. The rest of it is living a holy life, teaching somebody how to live a holy life and devote themselves to their God, and not being a so-called, I guess, hypocrite,
right.
Not being double-minded. That's what it takes, to really. Okay, let me go backwards a little bit. I don't believe too many young people should be in this profession or in this without the guidance of somebody that's more mature, because of the threat of emotions being involved.
Right.
Young people are prone to more emotional type stuff. It's just the way it happens,
Yeah, they need a little bit of life experience to wage that internal conflict and be able to handle certain situations. Yeah.
Right. You got to be prudent. You got to be wise. I don't know. I don't call myself wise or by any stretch of the imagination. It's just life experience.
Exactly.
And for a young person just to throw themselves into this, it's dangerous.
Right.
Super, super dangerous. You're just going to end up getting destroyed yourself.
Mm.
You know, if you're not careful. Happens all the time.
Right.
And you got to learn how to approach this slowly and methodically, and never ever jump to the conclusion that the first thing you see is demon possession.
Right.
Ever. And it really does take a team of professionals, not just clergy. I'm talking about psychiatrists, medical doctors, just to counselors, to talk to these people. There may be a medical reason why this is happening.
Right. Yeah, because that's always been kind of how much of, especially in the past, because a lot of mental illness, which is a huge topic in today's society, the symptoms do replicate and are very similar to some of the signs of possession or oppression.
Sure.
And so I always wondered how many of some of the exorcisms in the past were actually just misdiagnosed people with, really just a mental problem.
Right. Some of the last stats that I found actually came from the Catholic Church. It's 1 in 5,000 people. 1 in 5,000 cases are actual possession.
Which, honestly, that does not shock me, and that actually goes along with my way of thinking, I believe. Yeah.
Absolutely. And you just got to be prudent about it.
Right.
Wise, definitely.
Yeah, like you said, you need a team. You need to have people with those backgrounds. So you need somebody with spiritual knowledge and medical knowledge and experience to essentially make that determination.
Yeah. And there's ways that the clergy could test it in the field. They could say a blessing in Latin or in a language that person doesn't understand, right?
Right.
If that person reacts to it negatively, violently, there might be something there that needs to be gotten rid of.
Right.
You could do simple blessings over a person. Because there's things that would manifest in a possessed person that would not manifest in a mentally ill person.
Right.
Like telling you, or knowledge of the unknown, a knowledge of things that they would not know about. Say you're talking to somebody, he seems schizophrenic, automatically starts telling you about what you and your grandmother did when you were 5, and rolling through those events. Wow, something's strange there.
Right.
Or if that person is incredibly strong, stronger than, people on crack can be pretty freaking strong.
Right. Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, or whatever drug they're on nowadays.
Right.
But this is unnatural strength. I could show that.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking languages that they don't understand or they don't know. That's another sign to look for. And trying to, I don't outwardly go and try to provoke demons.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
It's not wise.
And here's and I've had to kind of get off topic just a little bit, but not really, I guess. When I've been on investigations, we've come across some things that, seemed a little bit more evil. Mm-hmm. And everybody's first reaction is to immediately back off and jump to the demonic card. And I'm not that way. I'm like, okay, well, I'll put it, we were at a house of, that was actually, this place had been reported. It's a, I don't want to say attraction, but it had been investigated several times. And we were in one room, and I did have some personal physical, I didn't feel real comfortable in the house, in certain rooms in the house. It was a real small house that I generally don't have that issue with in most cases, but there was just something there that was, affecting me physically, and whether that was a high EMF field, which can have those same symptoms, or there was an entity there, or there was a demon there. I don't know. And it was one particular room, but it wasn't consistent all night. It came and went. It was there when I first got there. It was an uneasiness is the best way I can feel it. And physical illness. I felt nauseous.
Sure.
But it wasn't that way all night. So through the course of our investigation, some people were feeling some evil, demonic type entities, which naturally I'm sitting there kind of not rolling my eyes, but going, pump the brakes, slowly roll a little bit here. Mm-hmm. And there was somebody who said there's something in the kitchen. So here's what I did. I said, okay, it's in the kitchen. I got my butt up and walked in the kitchen. And, they're telling me, be careful, be careful. I'm like, I'll be fine. Mm-hmm. Let me go see what's going on here. Now, that could have been stupid, but
I do.
But I felt I was in the right mindset. I was filling my Cheerios, I guess, but I felt I was in the proper mindset to where I could handle it and protect myself.
Sure.
Now, and I've always had the philosophy was I don't provoke spirits or demons or whatever unless it's more of a reaction type thing. If it's more of a protection type thing, mm-hmm. To project strength, essentially. If I'm feeling
that makes sense.
If I'm feeling I'm getting attacked, I'm going to fight back.
Yeah, absolutely.
If Joe Blow comes punching me in the face, guess what? They're getting a right hook too. They better knock me out first. But, I'm not going to immediately walk into a room and start, banging the drum and calling them out, provoking them. Now, exactly. if they come at me, okay, I'll fight fire with fire if I have to. But I think it's best to do that because you do want to, like we spoke about earlier, you do want to project strength. Mm-hmm. And when people say, ooh, you can't provoke spirits, no, you can't unless they're trying to provoke you. Now, whether that's a demon or that's a spirit, like we've discussed, what I believe, it's okay. Now, you might lose the battle, and I might come across something that it doesn't matter how strong I think I am, but I'm fully aware of that possibility, and I will take that responsibility on. But if I was getting physically attacked, I think I would be worse off just to be meek and kind of ball up in the corner a little bit. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. Are you thinking projecting strength or confidence? What do you think? Is a better example, or is it both?
I think it's both. If I had to, I would say both, but it's more strength because confidence can be fake.
Okay. Yeah.
You can't fake strength, mental strength. Well, you can, but it's going to be if you're faking mental strength. Let me rephrase that. Now I'm talking about it. Confidence is just faked mental strength, essentially. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I can hear that. Yeah.
You can be confident, but still not firmly believe in be strong. I think if you're mentally strong, you are confident, but being confident doesn't make you mentally strong, I guess is a better way of putting it.
Philosophy.
Yeah, I know this. Yes. I mean, but I would say if I had to narrow it down, I would say both, but I would go more of mental strength. You have to be confident, but I guess you can't have one without the other, really, but I mean.
I just wanted to know if there was a distinction in your mind on that or not. I'm interested, that's all.
Yeah. I mean, but I'm not against provoking. Now, if you just walk into a place and, and start really banging the drum and going to town saying, I'm here, let's do this. You're an idiot and things are going to go bad for you. But don't shy away. If you feel something is presenting itself, don't back into a corner because I've always related spirits or evil spirits or demons to bullies. They're going after the weakest people.
Yeah.
They're not. Yeah. A bully doesn't pick on somebody strong. They're picking on somebody they can have power over. And if you, and I tell this to my kids and my daughters all the time, the only way somebody has power over you is if you give it to them. And
that's exactly it.
Exactly
what I was just going to say.
Your boss has power over you, but you're trading that power for a paycheck. You gave that boss power. And so never give up your power is basically what I try to preach to any young person in my life.
Yeah. And how I would put that, my terms is, be careful who you subject your will to.
Right.
Who are you willfully giving yourself to?
Mm-hmm.
Watch out, because aside from our free will, I mean, we can choose yes or no.
Right.
And that's what gives that demon power over us.
Right.
We willingly disobey.
Right. Now, getting back to exorcism, because I'm fascinated by this, because I've never seen an exorcist. I've never talked to an exorcist.
Mm-hmm.
I saw the movie, but that was back in the 80s.
Yeah. Pure Hollywood.
Exactly. And that's where I was going with this. An exorcism isn't what you see, what we relate it to, because we've been brainwashed by Hollywood by thinking it's somebody laying on the bed and next thing you know they're levitating, their head spin around.
Mm-hmm.
What are the characteristics of the actual exorcism? I mean, it's not it's not Hollywood. It's not, I would say it's not that dramatic if I had to guess, but it is emotionally dramatic, I guess. I mean, spiritually dramatic, but not physically, what they portray on the big screen.
Right. Things like that are extremely rare. They really are. I'm not saying it can't happen.
Right.
As a matter of fact, I've heard cases that, bodies do contort. They can. The devil can, demon, whatever is in them, it can contort the body into weird, strange shapes. Backwards walks is pretty common.
Mm-hmm.
The jaw opening really wide. Eyeballs rolling to the back of the head. Blood coming out of nose, eyes, ears, mouth, etc. Bending arms and legs in weird fashion. That stuff can happen, sure, but most of the time it's a battle of wills.
Right.
A lot of screaming, a lot of screaming on their part. Exorcist should keep his or her wits about him,
right,
and not in any means get emotionally involved.
Right.
Emotion should be so far from it. It just has to be faith.
Mm-hmm.
I follow a ritual. A lot of times I like to read a lot of this ritual because it keeps me focused on Christ, on the battle, on the task at hand, rather than the manifestations. That they'll do manifestations just to try to distract the exorcist and distract the person that's trying to get rid of them. It's not the only reason they would manifest themselves.
Right.
Either that or they're just angry.
Right.
Yeah. They're losing their cool. Because you want to drive them to lose their cool ultimately.
Right.
And it's just lots of prayer. It can be lengthy. It could be days, weeks, months, repeated sessions. It could happen in one time. It all depends on that person that is affected. Are they going to yield to God, or are they going to stay yielded to Satan? That person has to reject that spirit out of them. Sure, I could, an exorcist, a person, a Christian, they could drive it out, sure, call it, tell it to go away after fasting and prayer, but that doesn't mean it's going to stay away.
Right.
That person could still want it there.
So it's kind of like, if I had to relate it to something, it's kind of like addiction. That person has to be ready to make that change. And so the person that's being possessed has to be willing to fight and reject that spirit. You can drive it out, but if they're not ready to, change their life, or in terms of addiction, if they're not ready to get off the bottle, then you can get them to quit for a week, but they're eventually going to go back to it. Same thing kind of with possession.
Exactly.
Okay.
Ultimately, some of this, it could be just pointless.
Right. how many exorcisms have you done? I'm hoping it's a very low number, but I'm not going to be shocked.
Yeah, it's over a dozen.
Okay, and that's over how many years?
15 probably.
Okay, so a little less than one a year. So
yeah, it's not that common.
Right.
And think of this too. I mean, I'm not a full-time person. I put myself out there, sure.
Right.
I mean, but I do have a profession. I'm bivocational, I guess you can call it, because I don't charge. I don't want to charge or have to collect any money for any services that I do.
Right.
At all. But I still have to make a living.
Right. Now, are you a part of? I guess are you part of a church that can be? Or are you more of a solo act, or how do? Is it how? If say I was possessed or I was having I thought I was possessed or what? How would I reach out? Would I even contact you? I mean, how would I know this is what you do?
I'm an independent minister, but I am accountable spiritually to groups.
Right.
It's not like I'm a freelance artist that isn't accountable to anybody.
Right. Right.
You have to be accountable spiritually to people,
right.
To each other. The ministry isn't very popular, I guess. It's rejected by 60% of the church, the church goers.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to throw statistics at it, most people don't believe in a real evil.
Right.
It's just a state of mind.
Mm-hmm.
Something that represents, I don't know. We want to call something a big bad devil.
Right.
So for the church to accept it, pretty rare.
Right.
Except for the Catholic Church, even they don't all accept it.
Right.
Believe it or not.
Yeah, because that's kind of the misconception I always had. When I thought of demonologist or demon, I always related it to the Catholic Church. From my experiences growing up, I was raised Southern Baptist, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have much experience or much working knowledge or education in this particular topic.
Yeah,
but what I did,
taboo.
But what I did know was the church. Might be a wrong word, but was more open to it, or that was their realm. That was their expertise.
Mm-hmm.
And, as I've gotten older and done, especially now doing more research, and I was like, okay, the Catholic Church does not have a monopoly on this topic.
No, they like to say that they do. They believe they're the one true church.
Right.
I don't know. I follow the Orthodox Christian faith more than I do anything else. Right. A lot of wisdom there, and it's a faith that hasn't changed since the first century. So
right.
They haven't changed their doctrine at all. Whereas Catholic Church, it evolves with the times.
Right.
Accepting this and that and the other. I don't want to put anybody down. I'm not putting any faith down.
Right.
Don't get me wrong.
I've always had the philosophy of it's all the same thing, just different interpretations of the same thing. Everybody's got their own opinion. If there's a little 2 cents worth in.
If you seek truth, you'll find it.
Right.
It's all in the person. It really is.
Right.
How much you study and seek after. So, I don't know if I'd like to. I don't have a business card. I don't advertise myself so much as this is what I do. It should be word of mouth mostly.
Right.
After the person has talked to people, etc. Because a lot of times, especially in today's day and age, they'll just jump to the automatic conclusion that they're possessed,
right.
or they're oppressed, or I do a lot of counseling.
Mm-hmm.
I do meet with folks, sometimes many times before I even make a determination. And pray with folks. It depends on their background, how much they've been involved in the occult, what they've done. Because I've talked to people that have done blood magic. Something is going on there.
Right.
Something will attach to you if you're sacrificing things to deities.
Right.
That has to be dealt with.
Now, let me ask you this. You just said you did approximately about a dozen exorcisms. But how many have you been called in on, or people? How many times have you been contacted? What's your ratio of? Okay, I get this phone call or whatever, email, whatever. 12 of them were actual situations that needed an exorcist, but how many were you actually called to? I mean, how many times do you say, no, you're not possessed, you just have some issues you need to work on?
Literally hundreds.
Okay. So you're pretty busy then.
Until recently, yes. Right. I started, I went back to seminary, so I'm kind of calming it down a little bit,
right?
Focusing more.
When,
but
go ahead.
I don't know. I keep my website rolling though. I post things on there and just keep it interesting.
Because you're out of the Maryland area, correct?
Yes,
now,
just south of DC.
What's the furthest you've ever traveled to maybe analyze the situation?
About 50 miles.
Okay.
I think. Yeah. I try to stay in this area.
Right.
I mean, I don't have a monopoly on it either. So there's other people out there that are very capable.
Right. I mean, I didn't know there was that many out there until I started actually, looking into it. I was like, wow, okay.
Sure.
Very interesting.
Try to stay in the local area, realm of influence.
Right. Now, when it comes to demons, is there a hierarchy? I mean, we know, since I would think there is, I've kind of started, looking at it a little bit but there's so many different ways or different people that talk about this subject, and there's so many different versions of the hierarchy. And we know angels have hierarchy, archangels and so on. And I would assume demons are the same since they were fallen angels when they fell with Satan. What is the hierarchy of demons?
Yeah, they definitely do. God is a God of order, structure, and they did come from that. So they are naturally power hungry anyway. That's what caused them to get in this position in the first place.
Right.
It's a power struggle. So they'll set up. From what I understand, there are territorial. Boy, how do you structure it? It's kind of like you have a general, you have a headquarters, a central place, and then it's broken up into areas, like continents. Say, you have a central head of a general of that continent, and then there's areas that's the sub-generals, the major generals or whatever. Sorry, I was Coast Guard. I wasn't Army. I don't know the whole general thing.
Right.
Like admiral and vice admiral. That's what I know. But they're not on the land anyway. And then I don't. It does bottom out, of course, to the foot soldier, but they're accountable. They're probably rebellious as well.
Right.
I'm not going to say they're not, stepping on anybody's territory, but I think it's pretty tightly controlled by fear and torture as to what they're supposed to be doing.
Right.
And they have nothing but time.
Right. Now, when we're talking rather hauntings or demonic activity in a home, and then we talk about possession, who actually is doing, when in the demon world, I guess, who's doing the possessions? Is that for the hierarchy of, for lack of a better word, more important demons? Or does, the demon at the bottom of the totem pole can they actually possess, or they got to work their way up to possession? They have to just, rattle some chains and move some keys around.
I can't honestly answer that fully.
Right.
I just know that they're liars.
Right.
You can't really trust what's said. But I think it depends on the person. If it's just somebody, I don't know, a street person will say, I'm not trying to pick on anybody.
Right.
Versus somebody that's in the White House. Who do you think would get the job of possession in each one of those?
Right. I would think.
Yeah. it might be that.
Right.
How influential is the person in this world, and who's going to get that job, whose responsibility? Because if they fail, they're going to be held accountable.
Right. Yeah, because as you were explaining, I was kind of okay. Well, maybe it's just something like depends on the person being possessed or the person who they are trying to possess. If just for a lower run demon is trying to possess somebody, oh, I can't do this. Let me call in some backup and get whatever their name is, let me call Joe and get Joe over here. He's a little bit higher up on the food chain than I am. Let him handle this one. I'll go pick somebody else.
Yeah.
Okay. It kind of makes sense a little bit.
It depends on the popularity, the influence that person can have. Like, you've heard of Annalise Michel, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is the biggest, most popular, I think, possession case.
Right.
Supposedly, Beelzebub, Stalin, Hitler, they call themselves those names. Whether that's their actual name or not, I don't know. But it calls out a position of that demon.
Right.
You know, what level? Famous. You know, one that's been powerful. One that is more influential than the rest. More successful, I guess, but I don't know. Again, demons lie.
Right.
So who knows?
This is a question, just since we're talking about exorcism a little bit and possession. We know demons can essentially take somewhat of a living form, either whether it be human or animal or whatever we talked about earlier. And then you have possession. And I've always I'll let you answer or give your opinion on this. I've always thought, well, if they can actually take somewhat of a human form, because there's those people that believe like just since you mentioned Hitler, could have been a demon, essentially. It doesn't get much eviler than that. That could have been a demon. Why? I've always okay, why do we have possession? If they can take human form, if they can actually walk on this earth in some human form, they could do more damage, like Hitler. As a person of power, rise to that power. Why even possess some 12-year-old girl? What's the point? It seems like that would be more productive to their end goal than it would be the other.
Well, they take human form. It's not going to be for very long.
Right.
For one thing.
Okay.
Maybe not enough time to actually do any damage. But think of this too, the human being, as far as we're capable of withstanding a certain amount of attack from external sources. Emotional abuse and physical abuse. We have mechanisms to take care of that because we see it, we know it. Whereas with possession, it makes the person believe that they are crazy.
Right.
They're losing their mind. They're losing control. Actually lose control of themselves. They're more irrational, more hectic, more prone to violence and deception to any kind of whatever they say to them.
Right.
They'll do whatever. The voices in their head are telling them to do it. So I got to do it. Or it's almost like an OCD type thing. If they don't do it, it's painful.
Right.
That's what a possession's like.
Mm-hmm.
It's torture. It's pure torture for a person. Whereas you can get away from somebody for a certain amount of time, or get away from them completely.
Right.
If they're another being altogether.
Just
avoid them.
That's what you're saying. I guess both would be very valuable in their demonic toolbox, I guess. But I just think, or even possession, if their ultimate goal is to ruin us because they're jealous of our life and our free will, possessing somebody or attacking the more powerful, essentially, would be a much, either possessing them or taking forms or taking form and expressing their will on those people would be much more beneficial to than little old me podcast host coming at me.
I hear you.
I've always kind of thought, okay, maybe before I even started this series, focusing on demons, I was like, okay, and it's kind of started with my thinking with portals. People say a mirror or portals, but I was like, well, maybe when we look at a mirror, we're looking at a reflection of ourselves. Maybe the demon is really we're our inner demon. Essentially, we all have issues on the inside in our brains, and maybe when we look in a mirror, we're looking ourselves, our true selves, and I was like, so maybe demons are just really our personal demons that we have to battle every day. So I was like, there's a fine line to where spirituality takes root in trying to decipher all the messages, essentially. It's a vast topic. That's why I'm making this I'm hoping 4 episodes, but it could be more. Who knows?
Yeah, mirrors. I don't know. Now I know people that have seen demons in mirrors,
right?
In themselves, they've looked in there and they've seen inside themselves.
Right.
That does happen. Whether it's a portal to another world, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not a big. I don't buy it. A portal can be opened anywhere. There are definitely thin spots to where between realms, essentially, and I'm using realms or dimensions, however you want to. The spirit
whatever
world,
your word,
whatever the spirit world to this world is, the bridge between that is a portal. I don't think it's an object. I don't think it's a doorway. Somebody said a window can be a portal. I said, yeah, a window is just a portal to the outside. That's all it is. Believe. That's all it is. And a mirror, and we are so. And this goes back to photography. Back when photography was created, people, it was, something strange. They weren't used to it, seeing themselves. A mirror is pretty much the same thing. Nobody is 100% confident in themselves. They all see their own flaws more than anybody else sees their own flaws. And a mirror is projecting, just bouncing that right back. And so we naturally think that that's something bad. Our brain tells us that's bad. That's all a mirror is. A portal can be anywhere in any place. It can be opened up by, like you said, ceremonies or rituals or whatever, anywhere. It doesn't have to be an object or a doorway or whatever. It can be anywhere. The portal, just because there's a portal in a mirror or in a window or whatever, it just got open. It's not the window. It's just that area or that space.
What happened?
Right.
Yeah. No, I know what you're trying to say.
Yeah, but it's one of those things. Who knows? Okay. Is there anything you want to add or say about demons that we haven't hit thus far?
Oh boy. There's so much, but for the sake of time,
I know we're going a little long here, but
I don't know. Help to the paranormal. I mean, I'm always available for prayer, for guidance, for anything. I'm just putting that out there. That's all.
Okay. Well, let me ask you one question before we call this one done for the day. What is no names or anything, just the experience? What is the worst exorcism you ever had to do? What is the closest to the movie version that you've had to experience? I don't want just you said get out demon and that's it, because that's boring. Nobody wants to hear that.
Yeah,
they want levitation and projectile vomiting.
I've never seen levitation or projectile vomiting. It's been mostly screaming and cursing and their face contorting and weird colors and just unnatural colors.
Right.
Gray and green. It's ugly.
Right.
And the fight, I think, are the long battles, the long fights. That's the worst I've seen. It's awful. Just the voices, the screaming, the nature of what's said. is awful, and it's terrifying.
Right.
As you should go to confession before you go to any kind of exorcism. You really should. It will be made known what you have done. All of your secrets will be made known.
Now,
I can almost guarantee you that.
Now, we talked about having a team. I'm assuming you have a team that you don't go in this completely alone, do you? Or
no, never.
Right. So
never.
What type of people do you bring when you say you get a call tonight and you're going to go do an exorcism or at least evaluate the situation? Who do you take? What type of people do you take, and how many?
My wife is my best defense, I guess.
Right.
She's a believer. She'll go with me. Sometimes my daughter. Friends. I have a friend that'll go. But believers.
Right.
Definitely somebody that can be there praying in the background or just listening. An outside source of, just in case I get tunnel vision.
Right.
Get a good perspective from that person.
I mean, kind of a lifeline just in case, because I would assume you're in just as much danger as the person who is actually dealing with the affliction.
Yeah, everybody there
right.
is, definitely a lot of danger.
Right.
It can be dangerous, I guess.
Right. Okay, that's that's good. I'm glad and I think it's great that your wife comes because you have to draw strength from her. Just your relationship alone that would be, has to help. But I would also kind of think that not being disrespectful, that would be also a weakness kind of thing. That is more of a target. If a spirit or the demon does know that's your wife, they could use that against you in a way. Have you found that?
I haven't seen that yet.
Okay. Well, I hope you never do. Actually, hope you never do.
Me too. Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying.
Right. I mean, because I would think they would use, you're using every trick in your book. I would think they're combating you with every trick they have as well. So you never know.
Yeah.
All right.
20 steps ahead of me already.
All right. Thank you so much for coming on and enlightening us a little bit about the demonic world. I thank you, and I really hope you can, come back and kind of lend an experience, or if you think of something we didn't cover. Like I said, I'm going to be covering this for a while, for at least the next month, and then obviously in the future as well.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter or my website at hauntedsoul.org.
Hauntedsoul.org. Those will all be in the link. And what is your Twitter handle?
It's at DC Outlet.
DCL. Okay, and is just Twitter? Do you have a Facebook or Instagram or anything?
Facebook hates me, so.
Facebook hates everybody.
I can't get on Facebook anymore.
So I don't even do Facebook that much. I have it just for the mere fact for this, but I don't. It's a waste of time.
I understand.
All right. Well, thank you once again for coming on. I appreciate your time, and I really think people got some good information here that they can possibly use if they are having some sort of issue. At least they have some knowledge and they can educate themselves further. So thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, sure thing. Thank you so much.
All right. That's going to wrap up this episode. I hope you enjoyed. We went over a lot of information. Now, next week, we are going to do kind of a summary of all the topics that we've talked about in the last couple of weeks. It'll be basically just a little bit of a review, and then we'll kind of move on to some other paranormal conversation. But if you have had a demonic experience or you are an expert in the field, be sure to reach out on Twitter at night_ghost, or you can send me an email at gitnpodcast@gmail.com. I would love to hear your story, and we might even be able to get you on an episode in the near future. So until next week, take care, everybody.